Today, we're going to be talking about something that's a little bit more technical, a little bit more advanced than what we normally talk about in these sessions because it's all about business optimization. So we're going to be talking about things like client acquisition costs, business structure, opportunity costs, things like that. But I wanted to bring them up because here in this group, one of the main things that we do is we try to figure out what can we do to be high value consultants. And what that means is two things: high value to yourself and high value to your clients. How can we marry those two things together so that you can not only achieve your income goals, but your client's income goals at the same time? And that's what we're going to be diving into today. So I'm Lee Blue, and welcome back. It's been, I think, 2 weeks since we last got together for one of these live sessions because I've been traveling a lot over the past couple of weeks. But we're back now, and I'm ready to jump into this with you guys. So I'm Lee Blue. I founded DoubleStack for the very purpose of helping web designers scale their business to where you're adding an extra $5,000 to $10,000 per month consistently with a handful of clients that you're helping at a really deep level. So you're going far beyond just, building up, a couple of pages on a website, but you're really doing online marketing and digital marketing, lead generation, lead magnets, sales funnels, things like that. So we talk a lot about that, but what I want to talk about today is there's these three sneaky areas that kind of go unnoticed in your business where if you were to optimize those three things, you can more than double your revenue in a really short period of time. And the first one is client acquisition costs. So we're going to go through three things. The first one is client acquisition costs. And what I mean by that is the most expensive thing that you can do is acquire a new client. It takes the longest. You have to spend all kinds of non-billable time, like free time doing it. It tends to be very stressful. It's really what fuels the whole feast or famine cycle. And when you're actually doing the actual work, then you can't be out prospecting, and then you finish the work, and then you try to go out prospecting, and that's where all that time gets lost. And so wouldn't it be better to be able to optimize your business in a way where you didn't have to find clients all the time? And so let's dive into some of the issues with not optimizing your client acquisition. So again, I understand that it's kind of a fancy whatever, client acquisition cost, whatever, but it's really, really important because there's so many times, like I talk to a ton of web designers and WordPress developers and digital marketers and various types of consultants. And this is one of the biggest problems because there's so much time that is just wasted in your comfort zone is basically how I like to define it. What I mean by that is so many people out there, they're blogging and posting on social media and, trying to drive organic traffic through SEO onto their own websites for the sake of winning clients for their business. And I understand it. I understand the idea. It's like, you're good at that. You know how to do that type of work. It's an effective marketing strategy for some people in some industries. It's just not effective at winning clients for you for a variety of reasons. The first reason is you're oftentimes blogging and doing social media management and optimizing keywords for phrases that your clients are never going to search for. They're never going to like the types of clients that you want to be working with are like business owners, like doctors and people that run landscaping businesses and health coaches and entrepreneurs and things like that. And very, very few of them are out there Googling around things like SEO and lead magnets and sales funnels, and any of the terminology that we would use kind of in conversation is completely foreign to them. And so, but you feel like you know how to do it. It's how you would get clients for other people. And the disconnect tends to be that a lot of people tend to think that getting clients for their clients is you use the same approach for getting clients for yourself. And of course, right off the bat, one of the big differences that happens a lot of times is that your clients are business to business clients. Like, you're a business, they're a business, you're trying to get that business to business relationship, whereas their clients tend to be business to consumer. And therefore, the marketing strategies are dramatically different. And on top of that, people tend to feel comfortable doing things, like if somebody would say, well, what did you do today? You would say, oh, well, I posted on social media and I wrote a Facebook post. I did a blog. I sent out a podcast, blah, blah, blah. I did all these things. And then you kind of feel like things are really going when in fact they're not. When in fact, what it really is procrastination. You're not doing the things that you know that you need to be doing, and instead you're doing the things that you're comfortable with. And that's a huge problem. And it dramatically balloons your client acquisition costs because you spend all this time doing this otherwise free stuff and you don't get any clients. Or if you do get clients, the length of time that you spend doing the work versus the number of clients you get is really out of whack. And so it just costs so much. And so meanwhile, you're draining your resources, you're draining your savings, it's just a big drain. It's an emotional drain, it's a physical drain, it's an intellectual drain, it's a financial drain. It's just not the way you want to go about it. So that's like one of the biggest things. The second thing though is, especially in the context of this whole client acquisition concept, is that a lot of people spend a lot of time and sometimes even base their entire business on getting leads from something other than something that they control. What I mean by that is people tend to be very reactive rather than proactive with their lead generation. For example, they're always trying to get referrals. They're always hoping somebody just calls or somebody will just stumble upon their website in some way. And the problem with that is if you're not in control of your lead flow, then you're not in control of your cash flow. And if you're not in control of your cash flow, like how long can you stay in business like that? It's like your business is just dangling by a thread in the sense that, some force outside of your control can blow one way or the other and either swamp your business entirely or really, really stall you out. And so what you want to do instead is you want to be the one in control of your marketing. And what I tend to call it is getting on offense with regard to your digital marketing as opposed to being on defense. Because again, you can score points on defense, right? Like even in like sports, like in football, I mean, you can like catch an interception and run it back for a touchdown and you score some points. But obviously you score a lot more points if you are on offense and you're in control of your lead flow. And I see that a lot of people are just stuck in a place where they're not able to be in control of their lead flow. So that's the second thing. And the third thing with regard to client acquisition is not actually making an offer to your clients. That's something that people don't realize is happening, and it happens all the time. And so again, like everything we're talking about are like sneaky ways that you just kind of like snatch onto your business and then drain your success. And what we want to do is we want to overcome all of that. And what I'm trying to do right now is shine some light on some of these areas, and not making an offer to your clients is a really big one. And what I mean by that is a lot of times people feel like they're making an offer. So like imagine, you get a client, they come, they sit down with you and you kind of have this discovery kind of breakthrough session to kind of figure out what they want. And maybe you add some things into the mix and then you tell them basically, here's my proposal. And you like kind of lay out all the steps and what the cost is and all that other stuff. So it feels like you're presenting a proposal, but the truth is you're not. And the reason that you're not is because your client is the one ultimately in control of the whole thing. What they're doing is they're going to get the proposal, they'll look over it, whatever. But ultimately what they're going to say is, here's what I want. Here's what I'm willing to pay for what I want. Will you do it? And that's ultimately a losing situation. That's why the price point is so low with regard to most web designers and the projects that they land. Now, again, there's absolutely ways to overcome it. And that's what we like. DoubleStack is 100% about overcoming that problem so that you're landing like, $10,000 clients or more. And in fact, it's such a common thing that I actually have this award here. This is the DoubleStack 5-Figure Family Award. And when a DoubleStacker lands a client where the annual value is over $10,000, I literally mail them that trophy and they stick it on their desk. And this is something that we just recently started out. So I'm going to start physically mailing out these trophies probably in the next week or so. But the point is, you don't have to sell cheap websites. And the solution is you need to be the one in control of the offer. Because if you're not, like if you're in a situation where your client is saying, here's what I want, here's what I'm willing to pay for it, here's even how long I want it to take, will you accept my terms? And then you have to say either yes or no. The problem with that is if you say no, or you say, I want to work with you, but it's at a higher price, well, they just simply take the work somewhere else. Or maybe even do the work themselves, like depending on how complex the project is. It could be like they're thinking between, should I just do this myself on Wix over the weekend, or can this person help? And so that's why you need to break out of that. So not actually making offers to your clients. That's a huge thing. You absolutely have to shift that if you are going to be in control of growing your business to the point where you're hitting the income goals and the revenue goals that you actually have. You have to make that shift to genuinely make an offer. So just to sum up the first part, with the whole idea behind client acquisition, wasting time in your comfort zone, doing the marketing that feels safe and comfortable because you know how to do it, but the truth is it's not attracting any clients and you're not getting any leads to your website, and you're just spending all of this time blogging and podcasting and social media posting and all of these different things, and it's not generating results for you, but continuing to do it anyway because that's what you know and you feel comfortable with, and you think eventually somehow you'll land on the right keywords or whatever. And that's just such a waste of time. And if you didn't do that and instead had a more effective marketing strategy, then you wouldn't have to waste all that time, and that would make a dramatic difference in your revenue. And so wasting time in your comfort zone, other people being in control of your lead flow, that's a really big one, whether it's, relying on agencies to send you overflow work all the time, or past clients to just refer you to other people, or Google, just relying on Google to somehow organically send you some clients from time to time. If that is your core marketing strategy, if that's like the main way you get clients and it's relying on someone else, that's a really big problem, because now something that's external to you, some just random forces in nature or whatever, can completely sink you, and you don't have any ability to scale it. Like, you're just out of control of it. You just hope for the best. So you don't want to do that. And then the last one is just not making offers to clients, realizing, hey, what I'm doing right now is actually not making an offer. I'm actually just deciding whether or not I want to accept my client's offer to work with me. And so that puts the leadership in the wrong category, and it puts the price way too low. And it just, the business structure behind all of that is no good. And we're going to get to business structure next, but that's the big deal with regard to client acquisition. So that's kind of big thing number one. The second thing that I see being a big problem is the business structure, meaning that even if you did land the clients that you wanted to, you couldn't scale to the point where you're making the revenue that you expect. A really simple way to kind of think that through is, there's two things. One being that you onboard the clients that aren't going to be your ideal clients. And that's what I want to talk about first, which means, suppose you're in the business of selling $1,000 websites. Some, like, your average project's around $1,000, which is pretty normal. Like, if you look at, I constantly keep up to date on like the Stack Overflow reports and what's going on at WPMU Dev, and people blogging about web design and WordPress consulting and stuff. And it's pretty common for someone to sell $1,000 websites, roughly, give or take. And so if you're thinking to yourself, man, wouldn't it be great if I could get $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month, but you're still selling $1,000 websites. Well, what that means is you have to sell more than one a week, or maybe as many as 2 or 3 per week, just to get to the point where you're making, $5,000 to $10,000. And the problem with that is that's a lot of clients. That is a lot of clients to try to get yourself in front of. Even if all of them said yes, just to try to find 10 people that want a website every month, that's a lot of work. And even if you were selling them at $1,500 or it's like that, it's still, it's very difficult to land that number of clients. So if you're thinking to yourself, well, my average price is $1,000 or $1,500, and I want to scale to 10 grand a month, that's the kind of business structure that doesn't scale. And what you need to do instead is develop both a higher price point for your upfront work, and you need to develop month-to-month retainers. And it can't just be for WordPress maintenance and like security and like, or even prepaid hours. You have to have like results-driven outcomes on both sides of the launch. And that's one of the big things that I see is people just don't have that business structure in place. It's a structure that even if they were successful at winning the clients, it's just, you can't do that much work on your own. And then what you begin to do is think, oh, well, maybe I will outsource to like some subcontractors or something like that to try to, scale the manpower without changing the offer. And it's just draining you, man. You can't win at the level that you probably want to with that type of structure. The second thing that goes wrong with business structure is just simply spending too much time doing non-billable work, like doing free work. And this is different free work from the client acquisition work. So just a few minutes ago, we were talking about doing work like, blogging and content marketing for yourself and trying to just do organic SEO stuff for yourself. Well, that's free work that tends not to generate the kind of results you want. But the other kind of free work is client work. Like, you have clients and they're not on a retainer of any sort. Maybe just hosting or something like that, where you're charging, say, $20 or $25 a month, or maybe you annualize it and just kind of pay for the whole year at once, but it's cheap. It's like just a couple of dollars per month, because you couldn't get them on board with maintenance, like plugin updates and stuff like that. And the issue with that is you end up doing the work anyway, right? You're sitting there and you see, oh, well, shucks, they got to update these plugins, or the theme needs to be updated, or there's all these spam comments in there because you're logging and you've seen all this mess, and you just do the work anyway because you're trying to do the best you can. You're a good person. And even though the client is not really on board with paying you for it, you still do it. Or on top of that, it might be, say you got somebody on for hosting, but then they need a quick update and it takes you 15 minutes. It doesn't take a lot of time, but so you don't really take the time to send out an invoice for it, because it's what are you going to do? Send a 15-minute invoice? You just kind of brush it under the rug. But then another one comes, and then another one comes, and then you've got multiple clients and they're all doing the same thing. And it feels like at first it's scalable because you're like, shucks, whatever, 15 minutes, it doesn't matter. But then you get yourself a few clients and you have that business structure problem where you're doing work for free, just either because you're a good person and you're trying to do the updates, or because it was just a little question and it doesn't really matter, but you haven't built into the relationship any way to monetize that aspect of the relationship, because there's going to be little questions here and there. Like, people are going to say, oh, I forgot my password, or can you help me log in, or can you do this? We just changed our phone number, or can you just change our hours, or just little things. And they all pile up. And before you know it, you get into the situation where you're just doing all of this work and it's free. And then you reach back out to the client and you say, hey, you know what? I need to charge for this. And they're like, well, why do I have to pay now? I wasn't paying before. And then it becomes this thing. Well, they're like, well, I don't even want to do it at all anyway. Let's, blah. And you even risk losing the client. And so that's thing number 2 is business structure there's a couple of really critical issues that drain your life out, and you don't even know that it's happening. And so that's a really big problem. So that's the second thing. But here's the third thing, and this is the sneakiest thing of all. And this is something that I see all the time in, like when I go to WordCamps or I surround myself by the WordPress community, because the same mentality that makes WordPress awesome can be taken to an extreme where it kind of imprisons you. And what I mean by that is that the type of mentality where everyone feels like I am like a lone wolf, I can do it all on my own, I'm smart, I can just figure it all out. And then they double down on top of whatever it is that we're currently doing, and then just keep doing it, thinking, oh, I'll just keep banging my head against the wall, and eventually I'll knock a hole in it and make my way through. And basically what that boils down to is opportunity cost. Because on one hand, that's an awesome, awesome mindset to have. The ability to say, I'm smart enough, I can do this work, I've got it, I've got the tenacity, I've got the grit. You have to have that in order to be successful, especially as a solopreneur or an entrepreneur for a small scale, like 1 to 3 person kind of agency. You have to have that grit, and you have to have the mindset of whatever comes down the road, I can handle it. I can do it. I can absolutely do it. That's the mindset that you need to have. But if you take that to an extreme, to the point where you turn off your mind with regard to receiving help or coaching or any sort of beneficial criticism, that kind of a thing, then what happens is you pigeonhole yourself into a situation where you'll never be successful. You'll always be stuck in this little, I always say that your mindset is the limiting factor for your business, meaning that your business will never outgrow your mindset. It's like planting I've got these out the window, we've got these blueberry bushes. And when we first got the bushes, we had them in these little pots, and then they grew, but then they stopped growing. And the reason they stopped growing was because they got root bound, meaning that the pot wasn't large enough to support a larger bush. And therefore the bush didn't die. It just never got any bigger. So the solution, of course, is to take the bush out of the pot, stick it in the ground where it can grow as big as it wants. And the next thing you know, you can have blueberry bushes over your head. But that's what I mean. It's like that little pot, like if your mindset is like that little pot, that blueberry bush is like your business, meaning that your business will never get very big if you have the mindset that you're closed off to help or to outside, help. And so let's do a little exercise, and I'll even explain, this is the biggest problem, and I'll tell you exactly how to figure out how big of a problem it is for you. So do this. Here's an exercise, right? So let's just for a second, let's move past the problem of finding clients and figuring out how to get in front of better people and the marketing side of things, because that's absolutely something you can solve. And let's look at the opportunity cost of not getting that fixed. So what I mean by that is, let's just assume, for the sake of this example, that you're now sitting in front of your ideal client. And here's the thing that's true. The truth of the matter is, your value as a consultant, even if you can do fantastic things, is dramatically different based on the client sitting in front of you. What I mean by that is, a lot of times clients will only ask you for just a sliver of what you can actually do. Like they might say, man, hey, look, there's Tony. Hey, Tony. They might say, hey, Tony, what I need from you is a fresh logo. Can you do that for me? And then Tony would be like, oh, of course, I can help you with that. And even if you're a person who doesn't have like really strong design skills, you could easily help. You could outsource it to 99 Designs, broker that relationship, and help your client get a better logo. It's something that probably everyone here, either by way of themselves actually doing the work or by connecting your client with someone who could actually help, like outsourcing it to someone or whatever, you can get somebody a better logo. That's not a hard thing to do, but you can do so much more. Like I happen to know Tony. Tony can do a ton of great things. And if somebody came up to Tony and said, hey, Tony, what I need you to do is, fix my logo up. You've got this old logo. Can you just freshen it up for us? Or, maybe they've got a situation where they just need can you make my site more responsive? Something like that. Well, Tony would be like, yeah, I can help you. I can get a better theme or whatever. But the point that I'm trying to make is that if somebody's just asking you for a sliver of what you can do, then your value to them is not as high as it would be if they asked you for all of the cool things that you could do, right? And likewise, their value to you is not that high either. Like if you're saying, oh, well, I can just sell them a logo and that's all I do, that's not as high as if you were to say, look, I can help you build this business. Like here's how we're going to get leads. This is where they're going to come from. Here's how we're going to nurture them. Here's how we're going to turn that into paid customers. And look at the difference it makes for your business. That's a huge, huge difference. And so the truth is that fixing the lead flow and the marketing is a huge thing with regard to getting your value up there. But for the sake of this example right now, let's just suppose we've got that fixed. You're now sitting in front of your ideal client and they want all of the great stuff that you're the best at doing, right? So like somebody's starting up a fitness center and they're sitting down in front of you and they're like, hey, we've got this great center going on. People are losing weight. They're getting healthy. Everything's great, but we're just not getting as many clients as we need. We've got to get more going here. Can you help us with our website, with the marketing, with the branding, with our whole online identity? Can you help? And then you're like, yes, I absolutely can help. And then you add up all the cool things you can do, right? So you're designing a website, you're doing SEO, you're creating an eye-popping logo, you're building an email list, you're setting up landing pages, you're setting up sales funnels and all these types of lead magnets and everything else. You're doing all of the things that you're awesome at doing, right? How much would you charge for that? Take a minute and figure out in your brain, if you had your perfect client, how much would you charge for that level of work, for a project at that level, right? And so, just seriously, take a second to just think it through. And my guess is you'll probably say a number at least $5,000 just to build it out. And then think, well, what would I charge to keep the ball rolling? Like after I launched the site and I did all that cool stuff to like help the client. Like suppose they don't want to do anything after you launch the site. They want you to do all of the marketing and everything. What would you charge for that, right? You might charge, like Tony says, hey, I charge $25,000. And that's absolutely true. You might charge more. Like I was just, one of the guys that I'm working with in DoubleStack, he just charged $42,000 and won the project. And it was like an $8,000 website initial build. It was like $3,500 per month for marketing. I mean, that's a huge win. And so like, that's a freaking huge number. But let's just say for this conversation, maybe you'd charge $5,000 for the website, super conservative estimate. And maybe you would charge, I don't know, let's just say you charge for 10 hours a month at $85 an hour. That's $850 a month. That's kind of the starting point at DoubleStack for retainers. And that is, that means at $850 per month times 12, that is over $10,000 of annual revenue just on the retainer. You've got, it's like, what's that, $10,200? And then you've got you've got 5,000 on the front end. So like the annual value of that is $15,000, right? And now think, well, what if you had 5 clients like that? That's huge. That's $75,000. And then you think to yourself, well, that's only taking just on that $850 per month, 10 hour per month kind of pattern. That's taking you 2.5 hours a day, 1 day a week out of the month. So yeah, so if you did 4 weeks and each week you work 2.5 hours, so like 2.5 hours once a week for 4 weeks, that would get you your 10 hours. That would be $850 per month. And so what if you then had 5 clients like that? So you're working 2.5 hours a day, 5 days a week, right? That would be 5 clients. Each of them are paying you over 10 grand a year. So that's over $50,000 a year coming in just off that easy little, 2 to 3 hour per week small retainer. And then you thought, and it's only taking you 2.5 hours a day. And then you thought, well, I could easily do more than that. I could do 5 hours a day. And that would still leave you almost half the day for non-billable work, right? Because you're still going to have some non-billable work. You're going to have to pay taxes and answer some emails and send some invoices and maybe learn something new from time to time. So there's going to be some non-billable work in the mix. So it's not realistic, and don't let anybody tell you that you can have 100% of your time be billable time. That's not a realistic thing, but you could have 5 hours a day. It's only a little bit more than half. So at that level, as long as they're billable hours, then you're generating over $100,000 a year off of 5 hours a day just on the retainers. And that's not even including the setup fees, that initial build out as you onboard new clients. So that's $100,000, right? If you add it all together, you're talking like 125 grand a year. Like if you're making 10 grand a month, that's 120 up to 125 grand, or somewhere in that area. All fiddles out a little bit differently depending on who wants what, but you're talking about well over $100,000 a year. So take that number and then compare that to what did you make last year? Did you make 50 grand last year? So whatever the number is, compare where you are right now to where you would be if you had that business structure and that marketing pattern in place where you could actually win your ideal clients. And so now you've got 100 grand on one side and maybe 50 grand on the other. And so subtract whatever you made last year from what you could be making in terms of the amount of work you could be doing. And that's what it's costing you not to fix the problem, right? So in this example, it's costing you $50,000 a year not to fix that issue. So if you take it back to like a month-to-month kind of a thing, maybe that's easier to figure out. Maybe that's easier to think about. So we're talking about you could be making 10 grand a month, right? That you could be making $10,000 a month if you fix the client acquisition cost, if you fix the concept of your business structure, and then you actually implemented those things into your business. You can make 10 grand a month. You have the manpower in one person to make that kind of revenue. And then compare that. Well, what did you make last month? Did you make 3 grand? 5 grand? What did you make last month? So subtract whatever you made in September from $10,000. And that's what it's costing you not to fix the problem. And so what I find to be such a big problem is people are like, I refuse to do anything to get help. Even so, if you just took a little fraction of what you're losing by not fixing this problem, this is the opportunity cost issue. If you take just a fraction of that and apply that to helping yourself get some help, like I'm not saying you have to work with me on it, but I'm saying you have to work with somebody. Like figure out what the problems are that you're having, and then go to somebody who can help you with those problems, and be willing to put a little bit of that lost revenue into the mix to fix it. And that's where the issue comes into play. It's like most people either don't do it for whatever reason. I'm not really even sure what the reason is. A lot of times I think it's people don't believe in themselves enough to make that type of an investment. But even more so than that, I think there's so many people out there that have just this. The help that they offer isn't. I'm trying to say this in as kind of a way as possible, but the help that people tend to offer, like if you look at a lot of Facebook ads and courses and things like that online, they tend not to be structured for success. Meaning that it's like an online course, you have to sit there and kind of do it yourself. Nobody's there helping you. and they've only been digital marketers or whatever themselves for like 6 months, and they try to just pawn off whatever they learned to try to help you kind of fix this issue. And I think a lot of people are super skeptical and jaded because of that type of a situation that's kind of going on right now. But what I'm suggesting is, take some of that. So if you could be making 10 grand a month and you're only making 4, then that's $6,000 per month that you should be making right now that you're not, because of these things that are sucking your business dry. So what I'm suggesting is find somebody who's been in business a long time and get these things resolved so that you can actually, realize your actual potential. I was just talking to a guy this morning, and he said to me, it was hilarious. He said, "I am my own best kept secret." And I was like, yes, that really hits at the heart of it. It's like you're sitting on these skills. You know how to actually drive results for people, but nobody knows it. And the reason they don't know it is because of the things we talked about before, about the way you go about client acquisitions, about the way you go about writing proposals and not actually presenting an offer, not bringing leadership to really help the situation, or the business structure, not having the confidence to do the higher pricing, or not having the tools in place to really get the month-to-month revenue coming in. Not giving yourself the resources to do your best work is basically what it comes down to. And when you're not doing your best work, you can't be driving the best results for your clients. So what I'm saying is, look at the opportunity cost. Look at what you're leaving on the table, and then take a fraction, just a piece, just give yourself some sort of a budget to invest in getting some help, and find somebody who's been doing, like I've been doing this 17 years. The whole reason I even started this whole thing is because I go to a lot of word camps and meetup groups and things around, and people say, "Hey, can you help me do these things?" And I'm like, "Yes, absolutely." And I initially started trying to help just like through email and things like that. And so I figured, well, there's 2 things that I can do. The first thing that I can do is let's just make a consistent time to get together like this, like we're doing right now. And here we are, and I'm helping like 1,300 people at once. That's awesome. So anybody who really wants to help, I can do that at this level, and that's helpful. And that's better than just trying to send emails after a WordCamp. But the other thing that I can do is I set up DoubleStack. And the whole point of DoubleStack is for people who are in a place where they know that they can drive results for someone. Like they know they have the skills to do some great work, and they're just not finding the clients. And the clients that they are finding have the wrong mindset. They're like, everyone just assumes because there's Wix and Weebly and Squarespace and Upwork and Fiverr and all these other cheap ways to get websites, everyone just assumes websites are only a few $100 or maybe $1,000. And so you have to shift their mindset to say, hey, this isn't a website we're buying. Let me explain to you how we're actually going to drive the results that you really want with your business. And that's the point of DoubleStack. And you basically come away with 3 awesome things. You come away with not only extra clarity, like increased clarity with regard to your own technical skills, but I'm going to add some more into the mix. I'm going to introduce you to a variety of other technical platforms and marketing platforms and just things that you can do to drive business outcomes for your clients. And the reason that I'm going to do that, and the reason we need to focus on that first, is 2 reasons. If you put business outcomes as a fundamental aspect of what it means to work with you, you can charge dramatically more, 5 to 10 times more than you would otherwise be charging, because you can articulate why this is an investment that has a positive return on it. As opposed to if you're just doing like the technical checklist style of work, there's really the only way that anyone can figure out where the return on investment is going to come from is from your client's own imagination. Like they're going to take your work and then somehow figure out what to do with it. And that's not going to work out. Clients don't have that type of imagination because they don't understand all this technical stuff. And so that's a big problem. So reason number 1, the first thing that we do is we focus on your technical skill set with regard to the business outcomes is so that you can get the higher ticket pricing. It's so that you can win these high value clients. And then the second reason is because it assumes the ongoing relationship right off the bat, like built into the mix from the get-go. The reason you're building a platform with these tools in place is so that you can continue to use the tools after you launch the site. And that is where we begin to uncover the answer to how do you get clients onto the month-to-month revenue cycle? Like how do you do more than just the one and done projects and have these high value long-term relationships? And so that's what we do. So DoubleStack is specifically designed to make sure that you're just super comfortable and confident with a bunch of different tools that drive results for your clients. Because again, it raises the value of your work dramatically and it builds the retainer in right off the bat. And then, so you're going to get three things. That's the first thing. The second thing is you get the marketing strategies to put yourself in front of the right clients at the right price. Meaning that we were just talking about, like, your value is going to be dramatically different based on who you're sitting in front of, because sometimes people just want a little sliver of what you can do. Here's an extreme example. Suppose you sit down in front of someone and they're like, you know what my problem is? The grass is too tall in my front yard. Something like that. Can you help with that? And you would, of course, say yes. Do you have a lawnmower? I'll come over and cut your grass, right? Of course, you don't want that. The reason that never comes up is you don't want the $15 for cutting somebody's grass. It's not what you do. You could do it, but it's not your highest value work. But the problem is people tend to say, oh, well, yeah, I could just update your theme real quick. Or yeah, I could just, whatever, the equivalent of cutting your front lawn, just some sliver of what you could do. People tend to settle for that. And so what we do in step two, or the big second thing that you come away with, is how can you change the way you talk about yourself? How can you change the way your clients view who you are and what you do, so they understand, hey, I'm not just buying a website here. What I'm doing is I'm interacting with this high value consultant. And the difference is this person is going to actually help me get more clients, generate more leads, increase the value of the clients I already have, increase my brand visibility. Like these ultimately huge things that ultimately wind up generating revenue for your client. That's what they want. And so the second thing that we really do is we dial that in for you and fix the copy on your website. We even set up a couple landing pages for yourself. We actually generate marketing campaigns to draw people in who are your high value clients, the people that want all the great stuff. And the third big thing that you come away with from that is the business structure that you can literally scale to at least 100 grand a year. Like I'm working with one guy, his goal is to make it to 250 grand a year by the end of this year. And he actually just graduated a couple weeks ago from DoubleStack. When he first started, he was making a little less than 100 grand, maybe about 100 grand a year, something like that. And at the 8 weeks, I was like, hey, where are you now? Are you going to hit that 200 grand a year mark? Like, do you think that's going to work out? He's like, dude, I'm already 70 grand up. I'm shifting it now to 250. And I was like, well, that's the kind of result. And the difference between before and after is getting in front of the clients that want your best work. And so what we do is, like, the whole point of DoubleStack, and the reason that I put it together is for you and me to actually interact with that and like in real time. And we do that by, like, I'll work with you on the copy for your website. I work with you on your proposals. I work with you on, your marketing in general. Like, what if you're going to go somewhere and give a presentation? Let's work on that together. Let's just dial all of the things in to make sure that you're not just out there saying, hey, you need a new website? Because nobody needs a new website. Or what if someone already has a website? What if they don't even think they need a website? Because my Facebook page is all I need. What if you come across people like that, where you're sitting and you look at them and you're like, man, they are so missing out. Their business could be so much better. They do great work. I would love to interact with them, but you just can't get your foot in the door because their mindset's kind of closed off to what websites and online marketing is all about. So that's what DoubleStack is all about. Let's fix that. Let's get you in front of your ideal clients. That's the second thing, is the marketing to do that. And then the third thing is the business structure to really be successful, meaning that as you're onboarding these clients, you're doing it in such a way that you're optimizing your time, meaning that you don't have these three big things that are just sucking the life out of your business, but you have the ability to drive the kind of results for your clients that result in you being able to have much, much more of your work week as a billable time. Because I'll talk to people that'll go whole day long, the whole day without a single billable hour. Forget about a whole day. I'll talk to people that go a whole week without a single billable hour. And of course, that's a big problem. Because if you want to, how are you supposed to, how do you get enough hours in the day or in the week to make the kind of revenue that you want if you're going that long without a single billable hour? That should be a red flag that your business structure is not in the right place. You got to fix that. So that's what DoubleStack's all about. And if you want to talk more about the details of how that works and whether it's going to be a good fit for you and it's really what you're looking for or whatever, another thing to note is DoubleStack's an invitation-only program, meaning you don't go to the website and sign up. Let's talk about what's going on in your business, and maybe something else would be a better fit for you or something. Who knows? Or maybe this is exactly what you're looking for. Well, let's get on the phone and find out. And what we'll do on the call is we'll do a quick assessment of what are your skills? What kind of clients are you looking for? What kind of revenue are you trying to generate? Does your current business structure allow for that? What are the issues that are going into the mix that are causing some problems? And then let's put a step-by-step plan in place to actually fix it. And then we actually work together on it for 8 weeks. DoubleStack is an 8-week course. So if that's a good idea, if you want that mentoring program and you want to be part of that group and you want to be doing these types of things, we'll talk about it. If it's a great fit, we'll work together on it and get new clients for you, right away. I was just telling you about some of the DoubleStack. Well, a couple of people that I've started working with have made, I think Brian brought in over almost 25 grand in 3 weeks in new business. I've had people bring up 25 grand. Another guy made 9 grand in 3 days. It's as soon as you begin to open up the possibility to get yourself in front of the clients that you can serve the deepest and the best, you're doing a couple things. You're justifying the price for your higher work. You're giving your clients what they actually need, and you're closing the door to all the other competition, because when you present something that's dramatically better than anything your client could have thought of on their own, they're not able to not work with you and go to someone else, because they can't ask for the power, the level of work that you're delivering is not something that they can generate on their own, meaning that they can't go to Wix and just kind of build it themselves, meaning they can't go to Upwork and just kind of, outsource the project for cheaper, or they can't go to some other developer who's going to have one of these breakthrough discovery sessions where we just sort of brainstorm and try to come up with some ideas off the tops of our heads. So anyway, so if that sounds like we're talking to each other, right? If it sounds like I'm talking to you right here and you're struggling with some of these issues, then let's get on the phone and talk about it. It's totally free. It's 45 minutes of you and me diving deep into your business to figure out what are the friction points, what are the issues that are going on, and let's get it fixed. And that way, you're not leaving all the money on the table, because whether you decide to move forward and fix this or not is a huge issue, right? It's costing you either way, right? So you're either leaving 5 or 10 or 6 or whatever the number is, $1,000 on the table every month, or we get it fixed. So so let's talk about it. So go over to doublestack.net/call and get on my calendar, and you and I will speak. When you go to doublestack.net/call and you see the calendar pop up, that's my personal calendar, meaning that you and I are actually going to be talking. It's not somebody else on the team or whatever. It's you and me, and we dive deep into your business to try to uncover what's going on. And then we put a step-by-step plan in place to fix it for the sake of actually getting you to the point where you're hitting your revenue goals. You're making an extra 100 grand a year, something like that. So that's the thing to do. So head over to doublestack.net/call, get on my calendar. We'll talk. It's free, 45-minute conversation to really dive into all this stuff. So that's what we got for today. And it's great to be back with you guys. And so we'll be back together again next Tuesday for another one of these live workshops here in Facebook. It's great seeing all the comments here. And if you have other comments, feel free to, even if you're not watching this live, definitely go ahead and, drop a note here, and I'll keep an eye on that throughout the week so we can stay in touch that way. Fantastic, guys. And I look forward to seeing you guys again next week. High five for the rest of the week. Boop. We'll talk to you again soon.